Almost 30 years ago now, I had a skiing accident. And I went from being able and feeling like I could do whatever I wanted to do to feeling like I was disabled, like I was on the outside looking in.
He went on to win more Paralympic medals than any other male disabled racer in U.S. history. He also won multiple medals in summer track, Paralympic Games, and World Championships as he competed in wheelchair racing. When he eventually retired from competition, needing a new challenge in his life, he decided to set a goal to become the first paraplegic athlete to ascend 19,340-foot Mount Kilimanjaro. Chris has been a guest speaker at hundreds of schools and businesses, delivering a message about resiliency, attitude, commitment, and leading a happy and productive life. So let's please give a warm welcome to Chris Waddell.
Graduating seniors, these are some crazy, difficult, and uncertain times. Your lives have been upended just as you were supposed to realize your greatest celebration. In these most uncertain times, I'm trying to remind myself that my greatest strength came from my greatest uncertainty. 31 years ago, I broke my back in a skiing accident, paralyzed myself from the waist down, and in a lot of ways, came as close to death as I've ever come in my life. But it was also the strongest that I've ever been. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't work out. I could barely move. All I had was my mind. And my mind had to give my body the best opportunity to heal. So in the face of despair, I had to resist the desire to panic, to quit, to succumb. And each time I did, I got a little bit stronger. These minor gains became bigger victories. 31 years later, I'm trying to remember how I could be that strong. I'd always thought the confidence bit was based on what I could do. If I was good enough, that I could be above things. But I learned the confidence was knowing that I could endure whatever came my way. Now, I've heard a lot of these speeches, and if there's anything that connects them, it's that I don't remember anything from any of them. So I'm going to give you my message right now. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. As I was preparing my remarks, I had this fragment of a song that floated through my head. No straight lines make up my life. And I couldn't find the connecting lyrics to figure out what the song was. It sounded like 60s, 70s, and finally I Googled it, and it was 60s, 70s. It was Harry Chapin, the 60s, 70s storyteller, and he said, "No straight lines make up my life. All my roads have bends. There's no clear-cut beginning. And so far, no dead ends." Which is a great thing to remember, because no matter who we are, no matter how smart we are, no matter how educated we are, no matter how strong we are, no matter how rich we are, something will cut us to the bone, will make us question everything that we believed about ourselves, all the formative decisions that we've made throughout our lives. And that's when we have to remember that it's not what happens to us. It's what we do with what happens to us. Because out of every situation, there will be successful people. And if there are going to be successful people, why not us, right? A few years ago, I went to Tibet with some friends who were doing some philanthropic work. On the way home, took forever to get home. Took 16 hours driving over these bumpy dirt roads just to get into China. Then we flew halfway across the world. And when I landed, I wanted to see what I missed. So I drove my car from the airport to my mailbox, which is one of those collective ones at the end of the street. And I parked my car in front of it and started pulling my wheelchair out, and I was putting the wheels on, and this little girl rode up. She was about 6 years old on a little pink bike, pink streamers coming off the handlebars, and she said, "What happened to your legs?" Now, I'd just flown halfway across the world. I did not feel like having a conversation with a 6-year-old. But from the time we're little, We're taught not to stare at someone who looks different, aren't we? It's impolite to stare. As a result, hundreds of millions of people like me, people with physical disabilities, are essentially invisible. So I told the little girl my story as best I could. I said, I was a ski racer in college. It was my first day of Christmas vacation. I went home and my brother and I went to the mountain in Massachusetts, the little mountain in Massachusetts, where we'd grown up. Met up with a few buddies and we took 2 runs before we were going to train that day. It was warm and sunny. The snow was turning soft on December 20th. And we decided to take one more run. And I was searching for the feeling that I'd had at the end of the previous season, where I was in full concert with my technique, with my equipment, with my fitness. And I went over a little knoll and my ski popped off. And I fell in the middle of the trail, didn't hit anything but the ground, and I broke 2 vertebrae. Damaged the spinal cord. So I tried to describe it in ways that I thought she might be able to understand it. I said, you know those little bumps on your back? Well, those are bones. And those bones protect the nerves. And the nerves take the message from the brain to the rest of the body. So if I want my arm to move, my brain says move. Muscles, the message goes along those nerves to the muscles of my arm moves. But because I broke 2 of those bones, it's like cutting a power cord. So now the message doesn't go from my brain to my legs or my legs back. I didn't know how well I was doing. Apparently I was doing pretty well. She said, so you'll never walk again? And I said, no, probably not. And with all the compassion of a 6-year-old, she said, well, that's too bad. And I wish that I had stopped her, because if I'd never had my accident, I never would have been the best in the world at anything. I became the best monoskier in the world, but it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had my accident. The little girl, she just saw the tragedy. She didn't see the potential gift. Now the thing is, we all have plans, right? And how often have we said the best laid plans of mice and men, right? Partially quoting a line from Robert Burns' poem, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, leaving us nothing but sorrow and pain for promised joy. For promised joy. That's where we're supposed to be right now, right? Now, the author was plowing his field at the end of the season, and his blade sliced through the home of a mouse, destroying it. And he felt the worry over the coming dark skies of winter, the mouse who'd worked so hard on this cozy home and lost it. But it was really more about the author, right? About his dread from the things that had happened in the past and his worry about the future, where the mouse scampered away and we're left feeling like the mouse is going to be okay. I've often had people ask me if I could change history and avoid the accident, would I? And I'd love to be 6 feet again. When you're 4'10", the view doesn't really change, and sometimes it's not really all that great. But I wouldn't want to change the experiences and the person that I've become for walking. When I was in college, before my accident, none of what I've done was in my plans. And I've done things now that I never would have dreamed of then. No straight lines make up my life. We started with the idea of uncertainty. But think about what we've learned. We've learned to walk and we've learned to talk. And it's easy to dismiss those because they happened a long time ago and because everybody pretty much does them, right? Almost everyone does them. But could you imagine learning how to walk now? So we said, okay, are you ready? And he said, yes, hold on. So I just stand up and then one foot in front of the other. How hard would that be right now? I started studying French when I was in 8th grade and studied through college. But even just ordering a meal in a restaurant is a cause for a minor panic attack. In 2002, I was competing on the track. I raced wheelchairs on the track, competing on the track at the World Championships. And I went to dinner with some of my friends. And one of my friends said, you know, I'd like to have a glass of wine, but I don't want a full glass. I just want a half a glass. And I said, don't worry. Like I can do that. And the waitress returned and I said, Il voudrait une demi-tasse de vin rouge. And she looked at me like I was absolutely crazy, which is kind of the stereotype of the way the French look at Americans, right? And I thought, no, I speak well enough that you should understand me. So as an American, I spoke a little bit more slowly and a little bit louder. And I said, Il voudrait une demi-tasse de vin rouge. She stared baffled. Now, terre means earth, ground, among a bunch of other things that have nothing to do with glass. I had ordered a world of wine. So she was completely justified in looking at me like I was crazy. Could you imagine learning how to speak again now? The thing is, we as human beings have an amazing ability to adapt, and adversity can be a huge accelerator. 31 years ago, adversity revealed my strongest version of myself to me. One that I had known was there or hoped was there, but could never access. We're in a state of adversity right now with an indeterminate end. But if we just see the tragedy, there's no way that we're going to be successful. But if we can see that potential gift, if we can see the opportunity, maybe we can find our best selves along the way. As you leave your studies, remember that your learning doesn't end. You've mastered some wonderful things in your young life, which will continue to have twists and turns. Tragedy, heartbreak, disappointment will visit all of that. In that, we're not alone. But it's not what happens to us. It's what we do with what happens to us. And you know what? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm scared. But I'm going to do my best to be healthy, to give myself the best opportunity to succeed, and to try to find those small gains every single day to get a little bit better. I hope that you will join me in that. Congratulations on earning your way to this point in your life. It's a huge achievement to reach your graduation. Good luck, be strong, and be safe as you go on your way.